7 cycling things that are going to make your life easier. Number 1. Chain wear checkers or gauges. These basically do exactly the same thing. This one was £2 off Amazon. This one's a Park Tool one. Feels a bit nicer in your hands. Over time, as you ride your bicycle, all of the parts get worn, and your chain linking all of your drivetrain together wears out quite quickly. If you leave it too long and your chain does get worn and the space in between the rollers gets bigger, you start wearing out your cassette, your jockey wheels, and your chain rings, and that starts to get quite expensive. If you drop this device into a brand new chain, it won't go all the way through. If you drop it into a worn chain, it will go through. The numbers here indicate the percentage of stretched. So if it goes through at 0.5%, you're probably on your way to needing a new chain. If it goes through at 0.75%, you definitely need to change your chain. Now this did actually catch me out, because back a few years ago when everything was 9 and 10 speed, you would only really need to change your chain if it got to 0.75% of stretch. Nowadays with 11 and 12 speed, you want to be changing it at 0.5. Otherwise, as I said, you start wearing out all the other stuff. That gets mega expensive, and for the price of, well, £2, you'd save a lot of money. For whatever reason, pressure gauges on track pumps are usually wrong. So you might want to buy one of these electric pressure gauges. This one is made by Toe Peak. It was about £25, but if you want your tyre pressure to be correct, then you kind of need to get one of these. They are consistent, unlike track pumps. You put them on and then you take them off again, and then you put them on again, and then you end up with a different reading. This would always give you the same thing. It's very precise. You can go down to like half PSIs, which a lot of mountain bikers might experiment to that level of tiny little change. It has different units, so if you don't work in PSIs, you work in bars, you can view it like that as well. Makes a really annoying beeping noise. You got Presta and Schrader options on this one. There are other brands available. I think they're all about the same price. If you want an accurate one, and that's probably why you're going to buy one of these, then £20 to £30 is pretty reasonable, I think. The difference I find between this and the track pumps that I've got, like this lovely looking Lezyne one, is about 10 PSI. Which is quite a lot, especially if you're doing off-road stuff, and how your bike reacts and how it feels to ride is very much down to how much air is in your tyres. Consider one of these. I end up using it all the time. Handy little device. This is my new favourite thing. Some people call it a gimmick. I don't think it is. I've only had it for a few weeks, but I think this is the most useful cycling product that I own, and it solved a massive problem. A shoe dryer, perhaps more suited to the British viewers than anyone else. This is £20 on Amazon. Every time I used to go for a ride in the rain or through some muddy stuff and then have to wash my shoes at the end of the ride, I would then put my shoes on the radiator inside the house. Very quickly, the radiator gets covered in shit and your whole house smells of like damp shoes. And I also started to melt them slightly. So, found this thing, and it's a game changer. I keep this in the garage, get back from a ride, stick my shoes on, either way, and then you set a timer based on how long you want them to be drying for. It automatically turns off, and then you can come back whenever, and you have lovely dry shoes. I always take the insoles out of the shoes as well to speed up the process. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's the best thing ever. In my little storage place where I keep things to hand that I need before I go out riding, I have one of these, which is a tiny preset torque wrench. This one was about £30. Other brands are available. It has different attachments that you can put in for Allen wrenches and Torx keys, and you can adjust the setting in Newton meters on the dial here. Checking the bolts on your bike is important, and there is always the underlying fear that you might over tighten stuff and break your parts. Over tightening stuff can lead to parts failing, especially if you have titanium bolts or carbon components. And a lot of components these days, in a bid to save weight, are using those materials. So it's even more important to torque them up correctly. You don't want them coming loose, and you don't want to explode the bolts. Use it before you go riding, or check the torque regularly, and definitely if you're taking your bike apart and putting it back together, there's no harm in using one of these guys to do it. These little handheld ones do have their limits. This one only goes up to 9 Newton meters, so if you want more accuracy and more adjustment, you might want to go with a dedicated larger torque wrench, but obviously be annoying to carry around. Probably the most used thing in every bike workshop, GT85. Let me preface this by saying they are a sponsor of this channel, so make of that what you will, but it's also one of the most useful bike things out there. There are other products on the market that do similar stuff, particularly if you are overseas and they might not sell this in your country. Like, I don't think you can get this over in Australia or in the States. One can of stuff, but I think it has 3 really great uses. Every single time I clean my bike, I use it as a degreaser, so I put a bit on a rag and run it through the chain. It helps to degrease and get all the black stuff off, which is hard to get rid of otherwise. Second thing, because it's water displacing, it stops rust. So if you clean your bike, leave the residue of this on your chain, stops it from rusting, and means you don't have to dry everything and apply chain lube straight away. Third thing, I actually put this on my frames as well, because it's very, very muddy here in the UK, even if you're riding a road bike, and a thin film of this on your frame stops everything from sticking to it. So really useful if you're mountain biking. It also leaves your frame looking shiny and nice. Works perfectly fine on matte paint finishes as well, and safe on carbon frames. If you haven't got a track pump yet, consider buying one with a chamber in it. So you can use these just like a normal pump. You stick it on, you pump them up. But as times go on, more equipment is becoming tubeless or tubeless ready. So I've noticed, even though I'm still using normal inner tubes in my road tyres, all of the wheels that I have and tyres are tubeless ready. So you still need to pump them up to a ridiculous pressure to get them to seat properly on the wheels. That process is made a lot easier if you have a pump with a chamber in it. You flick this thing, pump it up loads, and then release it all into the tyre at the same time. That big injection of air makes it way more likely to pop the tyre into the right place on the wheel, and you haven't got to worry about pumping it to like 120 psi every single time you want it to seat. It also means you are ready to set up tubeless if you need to. I use this on my mountain bike and gravel setups, and it seats the tyre every single time perfectly. They are a little bit more expensive than a normal pump, but I've noticed that everything is becoming tubeless ready now, so future-proof yourself. Now I've saved this one till last because it is the most expensive and probably the hardest to convince you guys of how useful and good that it is. Because I was skeptical at first too. This is a Garmin Radar Lite. I think it's actually Garmin Varia, but it is a radar. Basically, this detects when a car is coming up behind you while you're cycling and tells you how fast the car's going as well. I've been riding this for a few weeks now and it works unbelievably well. And it feels weird riding without it now. I guess it's just a case of peace of mind and being able to prepare for the inevitable overtake of a car. But honestly, it's just such a useful piece of information to have while you're out riding. Regular viewers of the channel will have noticed that I've been riding my road bike a lot less recently, and a lot of the reason why is because of the standard of driving. Of course, it depends on the kind of riding you're doing. One ride in particular, when we rode across Australia, I really wish I'd discovered this back then. A lot of the time you're riding on very quiet but fast roads. It's the same around here actually, and just having that heads up, especially when it's windy and you can't hear behind you, it's just a really valuable feature to have. There's a few different ones you can get in the range. This one has a light built into it too. You can get just the radar separately, and if you don't have a head unit already, you can get a thing that just displays the information about cars coming up behind you from the radar device. If you do have a head unit, obviously it will link up with a Garmin. It also links up with Wahoo's, Hammerheads and that kind of thing, so I think a lot of common bike computers have now integrated this system into their heads-up display, and a lot of them are compatible. Like I said though, it's not the cheapest thing on this list, but if you know someone who has one and you have an opportunity to try it out and borrow it, I would urge you to do so. Really amazing bit of kit, makes things safer, and I'm really glad I've got it. That is 7 cycling products that might make your life easier. Let me know in the comment section down below if you have any suggestions on unusual cycling products that are really useful too, particularly stuff that might save you money in the long run. Thank you as always for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon for the next video.